Hi, it's Michelle from Honest and Truly, and today I'm here to teach you how to make chocolate bark. So this is chocolate bark, and it is just simple. It's chocolate plus some flavorings to make it absolutely amazing. This is one of my tricks that when I'm making something that has melted chocolate, I go ahead and make the chocolate bark with the extra chocolate that I have rather than throwing it away or having it solidify and then trying to figure out what to do with it later. So come on over with me and check out how we go ahead and do this. So the first step to making our chocolate bark is to actually go ahead and melt our chocolate. So I've got a nice heavy pan here, which works out well. I'm just going to take about a cup of chocolate chips and add them to my pot. I'm going to turn the heat on, but I'm going to turn it on really quite low. It's not all the way down to low, but I want to melt these gently. And I'm actually going to take this off the heat before it actually melts all the way. You can see when we first start out that really there's not a whole lot here, so I can just kind of let this be. Once it melts a little bit more, we're going to go ahead and continue to stir again until it's almost all the way melted, but not quite, because that residual heat will actually go ahead and help it melt. So for this chocolate bark, I'm going to make a dried cherry and coconut bark. And the first thing that I want to do is take my dried cherries, and I've got about a half a cup here, and I'm just going to chop them lightly so that they're in smaller pieces, because trying to eat a piece that's this big isn't that comfortable, but once you actually chop them up, then it becomes much easier. Again, hold your knife here and just run it through. Bring your cherries back together, run it through the other direction. You're going to continue to do this 3 or 4 times. So some of them are going to be about this big, some of them here. You might have a couple that are smaller. That's fine. Not a problem at all. You can actually go ahead and chop this while your chocolate is melting, which will make it so that this is done even faster. So let's go back and check on our chocolate. In just that short time while we were chopping our cherries, you can see that our chocolate has really started to melt. It's not all the way there, but I can start to see that the bottom is starting to get melted and our chocolate chips are starting to kind of chunk up together. I will also tell you that I'm using a high quality chocolate chip that has good quality chocolate in it. That will actually melt down very nicely just because there's not ingredients in there to keep it from melting. If you use a kind of cheaper commercial chocolate chip, you're going to find that this isn't going to melt quite as smoothly as what you're going to want it to. And in that case, you're going to want to add just a tiny bit, and I'm talking a teaspoon or less of oil or coconut oil to this, and that is going to help it loosen up a little bit so that it melts more nicely. In my case, I don't need to use that, which is another reason why I always suggest using higher quality ingredients, because it really makes a difference in the end product. But again, we're just going to kind of keep stirring this a little bit until it's all the way melted. So now we're at the point where it's most of the way melted, and this is where I'm going to stop and actually turn my heat off. You can see still a few of the chocolate chip images in there, but it's most of the way melted. And turning the heat off, the residual heat is going to melt this the rest of the way. All we're going to do is just take our cherries that we already chopped, put them in there, and then I also have some dried coconut that is unsweetened flaked coconut. I'm going to go ahead and add about 1/4 cup in there as well. And you're simply going to take that and stir it until it's pretty much combined. It doesn't need to be perfect because, again, you want that texture and that flavor from all of the ingredients that you're adding in here to actually show up a little bit. So if not everything is mixed in, that's just fine. We're actually going to go ahead and spread our chocolate bark onto a mat for it to cool. So I'm using a silicone pad. If you don't have a sil pad, you can go ahead and use waxed paper. When I'm using wax paper, I like to just kind of mist my countertop just a tiny bit, just as a little bit of water, and then put the wax paper on top, and that helps it stay in place so it's not sliding around. A sil pad's already pretty sticky, so even though I'm pushing pretty hard, it's not going to move around. So all we're going to do is we're just going to take our chocolate that we already melted and prepared and just go ahead and drop it onto our sil pad. Using the same spatula we used before, I'm just going to take it and go ahead and spread it out. For me, I'm actually going to use this bark to put into s'mores. So once it hardens, I'm going to break it up into kind of square-like shapes for my graham crackers, melt my marshmallow, and use this, which is going to add a ton of great flavor to my s'mores. So again, you can use any kind of flavor you want in here. I did cherry and coconut. You can do blueberries or other dried fruit. You can also go ahead and do peppermint oil and then go ahead and crush candy canes on top. That's really good. I've done it with crunched up graham crackers as well as chopped marshmallows for an actual s'mores bark. All sorts of fun things you can do. So all we're gonna do here is let this cool. Now, if this were the middle of winter, I would let it sit here and in just a few minutes it would be done. However, it's summer, so all I'm gonna do instead is take this whole sheet and stick it in the freezer, and in about 3 minutes it's going to be ready for us to break up. So it's just a few minutes later and I have pulled our chocolate bark out from the freezer. As you can see, I did not lay it perfectly flat, and that is a-okay, because even though it's kind of up and down and around, we're going to be breaking this into small enough pieces that it really doesn't matter. So all I'm going to do is just separate it from either your sil pad like I'm using or a piece of wax paper, and then just take it and break it. So that's totally easy and something you can do, right? So you can either take your chocolate bark and you can eat it just like this, or you can do my favorite. In the summer, I go ahead and I'm gonna melt my marshmallow over the fire. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna top it with my chocolate bark and add a graham cracker, and you know exactly what I've got here. This is a s'more that is packed filled with flavor. You can put whatever flavors you want in here, and then instead of putting it on here and then having them go smushing out all over the place and making a mess, your flavor stays where it is because it's already melted into the chocolate. The cherry and coconut in this is absolutely perfect, but you can put whatever you want. So, what do you think? Leave me a comment below, and then don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss anything else.